So let's get into this job site safety for stormwater professionals. So just to move some stuff around here on my screen. So there it is. Good. That's better. So the catalyst for this and for me doing this training, this is my second year doing the same training, and I've refined it somewhat from last year to add a few things and incorporate some comments that I received and questions I received at the end of the training. So hopefully it's a little better, but I feel like it was a good training last year. So anyway, so doing it again. The catalyst is that I'm very passionate about safety and emphasize it every day with my staff. As Rebecca said, WGR is going to handle admitting people and also look at the, Rebecca's going to look at the chat as it comes in. Feel free to issue any questions in the chat. There will be additional time for questions at the end as well, but just throw them on there, or and Rebecca will, if it's a good time to jump in. I talk kind of fast, but if it's a good time to jump in, I'm welcome to answer the questions as they come up. Again, at the end, we'll have more time to go over some of the questions, but this is something I'm passionate about. As an owner of a company, I really emphasize this with my staff, so we're going to talk more about that. So again, job site safety for stormwater professionals. We do have a unique work that we do around construction sites, and there's a lot of things that we need to be aware of, in my opinion. So, okay. All right, so I'm Bob Schults. I'm a professional civil engineer. I'm a QSD&P. I'm a water pollution control manager. I am a construction general permit tour trainer of record. So I founded Verux with my business partner Ben Rao, who has much the same background as I do in certificates, back in 2010. We're a full service stormwater consulting firm. We have offices in Sacramento. It's where we started. We also have offices now that are growing to a nice size in Santa Rosa, Fresno, Clovis, and in Chico. We provide document prep, program audit, review, and SWEP inspection services for contractors, agencies, municipalities, and developers, along with SWEP and water pollution control program development and related management and inspection expertise. I have a background in working for a large heavy civil contractor. I worked for Tykert for several years. I was a project manager. I was a general superintendent and also an estimator at Tykert while I was there. I also have done project and construction management for large scale mixed use master plan communities. That's what I did in between working for Tykert and then starting Verux. I was a construction manager managing large developments. And we continue to do that at Verux on a smaller scale. Ben handles development projects for large development projects as well. But our bread and butter and what we do mostly is we're stormwater professionals. So I have, as I mentioned, I'm a QSD&P, have been for a long time, have one of those low numbers. I am also a trainer of record. Again, as a trainer of record, obviously I could train QSDs and Ps. I do not do that, have not done that. I do it so that I'm aware of what's going on and could if I needed to. But I suggest that if you are interested in getting your QSD or P that you take a class from WGR and from John. He does a great job with it. So feel free to jump on and look on his website about doing a QSP or D class through John and WGR. I also have a Title 22 training, and as I mentioned, I have my certificate for the 8-hour water pollution control manager training. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that right now. And yesterday I did a seminar on the water pollution control manager training that's required by Caltrans, the 8-hour training that started being required back in 2020. There is, with the new permit, there's new updates that are required associated with that. But it's an 8-hour training class that Caltrans requires of water pollution control managers now. I have that certificate because I'm a trainer. So I have trained a significant number of people, over 500 as of next week. People that I've trained to be an 8-hour water pollution control manager and to do that. So it's also something I do and I'm working diligently. And that's the reason why I did the class yesterday in Stormwater Awareness Week, is I'm very much on the inside working with Caltrans as a part of their Caltrans Industry Subcommittee on Stormwater, helping them right now. Over the last 6 months, we've been really helping and working hand in hand and collaborating with them to try and get their specifications their forms, their SWEP templates, and water pollution control program templates up to speed with the new permit, which has been a massive undertaking. So here is my a little picture from my website talking about Verux, and we do stormwater compliance, construction management, and the 8-hour water pollution control manager training. If you click on, when you get to the front page, www.verux.com, you can go into the regular site or get into the book training class. That's where you can book training classes, and just a shameless plug for that. Next week on Wednesday, I have a class here in Sacramento in my office. So, so happy to have you guys go. There's still room in that class to go in, go to my website, click on that and sign up. I also have 2 more classes that are scheduled out. I kind of do them every month and a half or so, month and a half to 2 months. I do a class here on the 8-hour water pollution control manager training. So last thing associated with that is that we, Verux, we are responsible for the database of all people who have been trained in the state of California for this Caltrans Water Pollution Control Manager training class. If you go to the Caltrans website, looking it up, it'll point you back to Verux's site, and you can go in there. And once you've been trained by me or by anyone else, you can be listed in the database, and we think a person can search and find you so that they can come and look to you to potentially be a water pollution control manager. And also, now we have the functionality on our website with this database to have people search by name, company, or by city. So that's it for the water pollution control manager training piece to this puzzle. Okay. Job site safety for stormwater professionals. I worked for a heavy civil contractor and was heavily involved in safety when I was there. And I saw the repercussions and the issues, and I saw some significant injuries that happened because of safety issues. So I sat on the safety subcommittee for Tykert while I was there. So I really bought into it back when my early career in heavy civil construction, which is obviously there are a lot of safety concerns when you're working around that big equipment all day long, which is stormwater professionals, we do as well, right? So it's always been an emphasis for me. So I saw firsthand the risks and results of safety. So I emphasize it with my staff. I start every meeting with a safety specific topic. It should always be a priority number 1 for everyone to arrive home safe and healthy from a day of work, in my opinion, which I think is everyone's opinion. If you're listening to this, I would expect that would be yours as well. Purpose of this training is to have a specific and tailored training for stormwater professionals that you guys can use. You can go, this is going to be on YouTube. You can utilize it, have people watch it. It is part of, I did this last year, and so any new hire, all of the people that work for Verux have had to sit through this training, and you can utilize it as well, so that they can, all the issues they face, that they have an understanding of it. Please feel free to enter questions as they come up in the chat during the training, as I mentioned previously. So we're gonna get into it now. So there's the items that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about a company safety plan and personal protective equipment, PPE. We're going to talk about driving safety, vehicle maintenance, extreme weather, rules of the road, 4x4 or don't do it. Remote projects out of the cell range, the buddy system, something we implement here at Verux. Empty job sites and site access issues. Be aware of your surroundings. As a stormwater professional, we get into some unique situations on construction sites where we may be the only people there. Heat and cold issues, unsafe condition exemptions, okay, for our permit and for the permit related to doing inspections, flood, extreme weather, critters and machine guns. I'll explain that in more detail when we get to those slides. Heavy equipment. So I come from a heavy civil background, so I understand construction. It's one of the things we feel we add value to our customers, is that we come from a heavy civil background. So we come from a construction background. We think about construction. We try and incorporate that into the way we implement the permit, is our understanding of construction. And we do a lot of training in-house here for our staff on construction. So we're going to do a quick equipment terminology. We're going to talk about eye contact and haul roads, things that you may or may not be aware of when you're working on big projects or around heavy equipment, things you need to really, really be concerned about and think about from a safety standpoint, again, as a stormwater professional. And then site conditions, uneven ground, trenches and excavations, saturated ground, flowing water, those kind of things, all stuff that we deal with, okay? So well, I guess we could start here. We'll start here with the injury and illness prevention program. So everybody should have one of these at every project, or every company should have an IPP. Here's an example of one. or a table of contents for one, but it's something that you should have and that you should emphasize. So the point is, of having this and starting with this and starting about safety is that everyone should enjoy an injury-free environment, and everyone should live it. Live it being it should be a part of the, I'll talk about this multiple times today, but it needs to be a part of the culture. Culture of safety needs to be something that's emphasized. You know, it's really easy to just kind of go about your business, sit in front of your desk, go out and drive to and from work and do things. But we really want to make sure at my company, and I hope everyone would, that culture of an injury-free environment is something that we need to emphasize and live, so that people don't make risky decisions. People understand, they have that little voice in the back of their head, which should be my voice at my company saying, should I jump this trench right now? No. Bob would not be happy if he saw me jumping this trench, trying to be an athlete out here on the job site. Those are the kind of things we want. It needs to be a culture and an understanding and a culture, and it needs to come from on high. It should not just be at a middle manager level and they worry about it and the bosses don't care. If it comes from and is clearly a priority of the higher ups, and then it goes down to everyone, it's very clear. That's the reason why we start every meeting with safety at Verux, because we want to understand that's first priority. First priority is everyone going home safe to their families at night. Okay. Okay, so it's the responsibility of managers and owners to build that culture of safety. So culture, injury-free environment, live it. Okay, so here's a good example of a letter that went out to the employees at this company, and from the boss, from their head, basically. Safety and health is our business, must be a part of every operation. Without question, it is every employee's responsibility at all levels. It's the intent of the company to comply with all laws and provide a safe and healthy work environment for employees. So as you go through this, the thing I wanted to emphasize from this letter, it's a very good letter all the way around, and it makes it very clear that it comes from the owner. The personal safety and health of each employee of this company is of primary importance. Our objective is to reduce the number of injuries and illnesses to an absolute minimum and to foster and promote the concept of an injury-free environment. Employees who violate safety and health rules, orders, or standards, or expose themselves or fellow employees to safety or health hazards will be subject to disciplinary actions. So there's a carrot and a stick here, right? I think the carrot's pretty obvious. Everybody needs to come home safe at the end of the day. Everyone should understand that that's really, really important if that's what we care about, okay? And not just caring about it like, obviously I care, right? Obviously I care if my employee makes it home safe that day. But you say it. It's not just like, it's a no-brainer. It's something that is spoken into that builds that culture. And then the stick part of it is that it needs to also be clear that if someone is violating safety and health rules, orders, or standards, or expose themselves or fellow employees to safety or health hazards, will be subject to disciplinary actions. There's no question. There's no question. It's not you have to understand it's your job to think about it first. That's why we start the meetings with safety, and think about it first, think about it last, and to be a really big focus for you. So that's just my big stump speech. Culture, company culture, making sure it's clear in your company that you care and that you care about it to the point of disciplinary action if necessary. So part of it, as a stormwater professional, you're going to a lot of different job sites, and a lot of different job sites have a lot of different rules. So you have your own rules, you have your own culture about how you deal with it at your company. I know how we deal with it at Verux, how we make it a high priority. But then you're going to go to other job sites, and not just safety, but there are other safety is what we're talking about today. But when you're going to other job sites and you're going to multiple, let's say you're going to 5 jobs tomorrow to do a loop of inspections as a stormwater professional, the different jobs are going to potentially have different rules. Communication is really critical. Communication and safety is super, super critical. Communication is in general with your clients is very critical. Having that open line of communication, being able to talk about what's going on and knowing what their rules are. So you know your IPP and the rules of each of your job sites too. So some job sites are going to have extra safety orientations that are required. They're going to have biological orientations or things you need to do. There are extra rules for sign in and sign out, right? At some job sites. Some job sites don't have a trailer. They don't have all the additional rules, but depending on your client, they may have additional rules. And that part of that culture of safety and everything else is communicating that down the line, communicating it from the person who has the first connection with that contractor and client, and making sure the different technicians, if today it's me, and next week it's going to be a different contractor or a different person from my company going there. My job is to make sure that person has the information they need to be able to go out there and do the right thing for the client. So here's an example. So hello all, I'm sending this message out to all involved currently on this project to remind everyone you are required to check in prior to walking the job site. Please check in at the office, sign what company and your purpose for the visit, as well as sign out as you leave. Also, now that the project is in full swing, we are required to wear hard hats, no short pants, no tennis shoes, please. Workplace safety is important. To all subcontractors, should you send out a representative for a brief visit, make sure they have a hard hat and proper clothing. Absolutely no shorts or sneakers on the site, or you will not be allowed on the site. If you do not have a hard hat, we have loaners in the office. So there's just a general thing that you would pass on to your other coworkers to make sure they understand what the rules are. This client wants a sign in and sign out. They've got a trailer. There are plenty of jobs we have where they have a trailer, but they don't require a sign in and sign out. This contractor does. So we want to make sure we do that. And so that we're not just walking around the job and get a superintendent run out there and chew us out because, hey, I'm the new inspector, but my other inspector at Verux has been there 3 weeks in a row and knows the rules, and that wasn't communicated. Okay. Personal protective equipment, PPE. You're going to hear this. Do you have your PPE? That's personal protective equipment. No shirts, no shirt, no shoes, no dice, Spicoli. So if you don't have it, as was mentioned in the previous email, then you're going to be asked to leave the project. If you don't have what they require, then you're going to be asked to leave the project. Okay, everybody's seen one of these. There's a hard hat, right? And different hard hats, different companies have different rules about hard hats and hard hat types, and things are changing on that. So making sure you understand that. But a hard hat is definitely a piece of PPE that every stormwater inspector needs to have and plans to use. Safety glasses. Safety glasses it varies depending on the contractor and your own company policy whether safety glasses are required and but you certainly need to have them because there are definitely going to be construction sites that require safety glasses. An orange vest, reflectorized orange vest, needs to be worn on. Should be worn anytime you're getting out of the car at any job site. That should be a part of everyone's injury and illness prevention plan associated with construction sites. And pretty much all construction sites require you to have an orange vest, reflectorized orange vest that meets those requirements so that you can be seen. Being seen around heavy equipment is absolutely critical. Other personal protective equipment that is maybe less typical. So there's a rain jacket here. A stormwater professional ought to have a rain jacket. We provide the rain jackets that meet the requirements of an orange vest that have the reflectorized stuff on them. So that otherwise then you would have a rain jacket that's a black rain jacket, then you need to pull your vest on over the top of it if you're walking around the job site. So we try and do it this way. So that's one thing you ought to have. Muck boots or rain boots in order to be able to get out there in the rain, other rain gear, rain pants, those kind of things. Then Emory here is about to do a sample on the American River. And there can be different requirements for PPE, and Emory's wearing a reflectorized life vest because he's working next to the American River. That was something that we worked with the injury and illness prevention plan of our contractor because we're going to have to be near the river. If you're working near a river like this or flowing waterway, a lot of times there are job site specifics hazard analysis that say you have to do X, Y, and Z. At this river project, we needed to have a second person with us. The contractor came with us in order to see it. We didn't have to, because there wasn't a huge slope, we didn't have to be tied off or anything like that, but we did have to, if you're working this job in this location, if you're within 6 feet of the waterway, you had to wear a life vest. So there he is, wearing his life vest, happy to go out and do his thing and take his samples. So other options are you potentially have to have a spotter, like I talked about, or a second person, depending on the situation, a life vest, gloves, chaps, Tyvek suit, working at night. Oftentimes you have to wear the white Tyvek suit, hearing protection, fall prevention, rubber boots, rain jacket, all different things that can be added to your PPE list if you need them, depending on the specific job that you're doing on a job site or when it's happening, okay? All right, driving safety. So as a stormwater professional, you're gonna put the miles in. You are definitely going to put the miles in. You're going to have to drive around to those job sites, drive from job site to job site. So one of the highest risk things you're doing is being in that car all day long, okay, and driving and putting those miles and putting 15, 20, 30,000 miles a year on your vehicle. So that is a shuttle to where you're going, and it needs to be maintained and well taken care of. So we have protocols for our people to make sure that they're doing these things and they understand. I mean, You may be driving, a new employee may have been driving since they're 16 years old, but they had mom and dad taking care of their car, or they just still don't know all about maintenance. It's very important when you're putting a lot of miles in your vehicle that you're properly maintaining that vehicle from a safety standpoint in general, but also in just a maintenance and the usage and the long-term health of your car, right? So check frequently. This is a good checklist. Check your dashboard indicator lights, vehicle lights, tire inflation and condition, windshield washer fluid, engine oil level. Obviously, windshield wipers need to be in really good shape going into the winter months if you're a stormwater professional, because you're going to be out there getting it done in the rain. Every 3 months, automatic transmission fluid, battery and cables, belts, engine air, filter, exhaust hoses, power steering fluid. Every 6 months, chassis lubrication and wiper blades. Okay, probably more than every 6 months, definitely going into the wintertime with your wiper blades. Every 9 months, same checklist as every 3 months. Every 12 months, brakes, cabin air filter, coolant, steering, and suspension and wheel alignment. Tire inflation and tire wear levels are really, really important. Really, especially working in the wintertime, working where you're going to have rainy and wet and slippery roads, making sure your tire is properly inflated and that you have the proper amount of wear to have the traction you need. So please keep that in mind. So driving safety, obviously, and already kind of touched on it, driving in extreme weather. We are purposely going out there. We're not hiding. We're not, it's going to be raining really hard today. I'm going to try and stay just in the office. We have to go out in this. Okay. So snow, heavy rain, slick conditions, you have to be prepared to deal with them. Okay. As a stormwater professional, you get into a place where they require chain controls and you do not have to. It's one of those conditions that you can then turn around, but you need to document. So you have chain controls, unsafe conditions because of snow. You can turn around, but you need to document that you made the effort and that you were turned around at the chain controls. But in general, like in this site with this snow here, there's no chain controls, but slick conditions, you need to slow, you need to have more time between you and the vehicle in front of you to be able to stop. Same thing in wet weather as well. Visibility is lower. So it's taking more time and more focus. We're going to talk later about getting in and out of traffic control, those kind of things. You need to give yourself more time to get where you need to get during snow, heavy rain, or slick conditions. Okay, speeding, passing, road rage. As from a safety standpoint, speeding is not okay. Okay, you're in a hurry because you got a bunch of jobs you need to go to, but you need to drive the speed limit, follow the traffic laws. Okay, passing needs to be done in a safe condition per the traffic laws. Road rage is not worth it. Okay, someone driving like a not super smart person in front of you, doing something dumb, cutting you off, those kind of things. Find some Zen, take a deep breath. It's not worth it. Don't road rage. Slow down, get away from the crazy person. And if you drive around enough, you see crazy people on the roads. Give yourself extra room when someone's weaving in and out of traffic and driving way over the speed limit. Get away from them. They're headed to a disaster. You don't want to be caught up in the crossfire. Road rage is not worth it. Don't do it. Okay.
We have a quick question, clarification. How would you suggest documentation? Photos?
You're talking about the snowy conditions. Yes. And we're going to talk more about documenting unsafe conditions. We're going to get into other unsafe conditions, but from the road, yes, we always push for having a photo documentation to document an unsafe condition that you feel is exempting you from having to do your inspection. Absolutely. A photo, if you're driving up, you get a chain control area, take a picture of the sign that says chain controls. Now, you're not taking it with your hand out the window while you're driving 60 miles an hour, right? You're getting in a safe place where you can, but you're documenting that. You can also document those kind of conditions, weather-related unsafe conditions, high wind advisory, that kind of stuff by printing it off the internet. If you don't go at all because there's 100-mile-an-hour winds are predicted, that kind of thing. But documentation, document. Okay, don't be. Just going to turn off the video here for a second, but document, and include it with your inspection report. You have to be able to prove it. And, it's not okay, as we'll talk about, it's not okay to say, well, it's raining, it's not safe. That's not, as a stormwater professional, that doesn't get you out of having to do an inspection. Okay. It's flooding conditions, those kind of things. It's snow that you can't traverse with your vehicle. It's that kind of stuff. But document it. Don't be a fraud. Make sure that it's legit while you're doing it. And I'm going to give you some examples that are not listed in the permit, but that are truly documentable examples of why. Any other questions right now, Rebecca, or you want me to keep going?
That's the only one for right now.
Okay, so driving safety and access. Again, having the light on top of your vehicle to be able to get on and off and through traffic control is really a good thing, and it is part of your toolkit as a stormwater professional. Here is some guidance from Caltrans. Use of amber warning lights is regulated by the California Vehicle Code. Okay. Use amber warning lights, emergency flashers, or both as needed to alert traffic of workers on foot or operations near the traveled way, when moving into or out of traffic, when parked outside of a lane closure within 6 feet of traffic. Okay, within 6 feet of traffic, you're supposed to have your light and have it on. Do not use amber lights when driving at normal highway speeds. When parked in an established lane closure, so you have a lane closure and you're parked in that lane closure away from the traveled way, you don't have to have it. Unless circumstances warrant usage in that case. Misuse or overuse of warning lights seriously reduces their effectiveness when working during hours of darkness. Using amber lights with discretion. Do not blind or distract traffic needlessly. At times, the vehicle's emergency flashers may be more effective. So there's going to be a case by case, but something to think about with those lights. So traffic control is something we're dealing with frequently on project sites. Understanding the current traffic control and communicating with your contractor client each week prior to accessing the site is really important. Having a plan for winter access during rain events, communicating the plan to stakeholders, and understanding safety concerns. So there's just a couple of pictures of traffic control. We've all gone in and out of it when you're doing highway work on Caltrans work. That's also a thing. You need to really, as a part of your own injury and illness prevention plan and your contractors, is understand what you're going to have to do. So I need to get in and out here. It may be that you can drive your car in and out of the traffic control and drive and be able to get to the areas you need to get to. Or it may be a situation where the only safe way is to go park someplace offsite and then walk the job as well. So part of that, and jobs, you're there once a week, potentially. Sometimes you're there more often during the rain events, but you're there once a week. So you may want to establish a communication with a job that has a lot of in and out and the requirements of getting in and out of live traffic. Is establish communication with your contractor client about, do I need to come and meet with you and you're going to drive me through the job in order to get through it safely? I'm coming tomorrow. Am I doing the same thing, or is traffic switched? Is there something I need to know about getting to this different portions of the job site? Communication is a part of this, is really important. Okay. So just things to think about. Okay. And understanding that your job's going to change. You're not there every single day. So then it's going to change, and you may go out there and you may be unable to reach and to get to all portions of the job. As you get into winterization planning and winter planning, it becomes even more critical, because this job is going gangbusters right now, but December, after it's rained for 3 straight weeks, it may be a ghost town, and you have to have an ability and a plan for how you're going to get around that job site. And working with your contractor client about that is going to be, and that communication is going to be necessary. Driving safety 4x4, don't do it. Okay, so this is an unfortunate picture of a situation, even with all the safety culture and everything else, of a employee at Verux who got themselves in a pickle. Okay, so, and got themselves off the road and ended up stuck, and could have been a catastrophic situation. It's pretty close to that waterway that's deeper than that car for sure. So these are the kind of things you want to discuss and make sure you have that culture so people are comfortable discussing these kind of situations with you, and what's happening on these jobs. Okay, and then talking to your client as well. So this is a job, it's a levee job that's a long ways from a paved road. Okay, it's a long way from a paved road. You're driving on gravel, and in the middle of summer, this is like a freeway, this gravel road. But in the wintertime, once soils get saturated, it can be not such a great road. Here's another example of a like project where we had a gravel road going out to a project, and in the summer months, this is a freeway. But this is what it can look like after the winter months. Now, again, we're out there. Jobs can be empty in the wintertime because it's been raining. The contractor can't get out there. Well, we may not be able to get out there either. So then it becomes a conversation with your client going, we can't get to the job. It's 2.5 miles on a gravel road. We're not going to walk that. So we have to figure out a way to get us access to be able to do our inspections. And nowadays with the new permit, you can go inactive, which is really nice. But even with an inactive status, you're still supposed to go there once a month. you're still supposed to go in rain event. So that communication with the client and the owner, stakeholder, or the permit holder to find out, okay, how are we going to get there this winter? You guys are winterizing, you're shutting down, or if you're not winterizing, but during the rain events, you're shutting down, how am I going to get there? I'm not going to put myself, stormwater professional, I expect you to say, I'm not going to put myself in a dangerous situation in order to get to the job site. This mud here, hey, maybe if I hit it at 40 miles an hour, I might be able to make it through. That is not a question you need to be asking yourself. You turn around, you park, you walk, okay? You get on the phone with a supervisor, you talk to them about the situation and get their insight. That's part of the culture, is like, I'm supposed to be doing this inspection. I just need to go. I need to not complain. I've been doing this inspection the whole time. I know it's wet. I'm getting nervous. Stop the car, make a call, okay? Could be a great road all summer, but not in a storm. So we have to figure that out, okay? But don't four-wheel. I drive a four-wheel drive vehicle. That's my personal preference, an all-wheel drive vehicle. Most of my technicians do not. And the fact that I have a four-wheel drive vehicle, I don't put it in four-wheel drive on job sites, okay? If you can't get around the job site without going into 4 low, you should not be going out to the job site without walking it. You should be getting out and walking, okay? Because if you get stuck, especially, again, an empty job site, you get stuck, who's going to pull you out? What happens then? Right? It's a really bad deal. Better to walk for an extra hour, spend an extra hour on the job because you have to walk, than being stuck there for 4 hours waiting for a tow truck. Okay. So the expectation needs to be, and the culture needs to be at your company, that you don't put yourself with your vehicle in a situation where you could get stuck. And don't be that stormwater inspector that drives on a job site in the winter and then tracks out for a quarter mile out of the job site afterward because you didn't park and walk, right? We don't be that guy or gal. This is just a little funny picture. I mean, even a contractor with very heavy duty equipment can still have things go wrong when it comes to water, right? This is a job with tidal influence. They have an excavator out there working and they got stuck and the tide started coming up. And even with extra equipment there, they could not get unstuck. And now the equipment, now they're spending time putting turbidity curtains around it because now they got to wait for the tide to go down before they can try and pull the vehicle out the rest of the way, sideways excavator. So remote projects being out of cell range and the buddy system. Okay, so it's something to think about. It's a policy that we have. So it is possible to have projects that are very remote or don't have good cell service, right? So it's something that everyone should be aware of and you should be thinking about. If you're going out to a project, this is a project that we had at Hellhole Dam. Hellhole Dam, there's not really much reason to go there. I guess you can fish. But anyway, it's from Forest Hill, which is pretty deep above Auburn. It's a full 2 hours and 10 minutes of driving past Forest Hill. And from Forest Hill, you have no cell service. So you got 2 hours and 10 minutes one way to get to this project before you turn around. So you're 4 hours of driving on gravel roads just to get to the project, okay? And with no cell range. So when we're sending someone up there, obviously we're aware of that person being there, and we have kind of a buddy system where we know the person's going, we know when they're going, and we know when to check in that they should be getting back. Okay, they left first thing in the morning. By 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, they should be back in cell range. And then we're ready to send out the search party if it's late in the day and we haven't heard anything, right? So that's something that's, when you're in a situation like that, we need to make sure people are aware. You have someone that's aware of where it is you're going consistently that is going to be out of cell range, so that then we can send help. If you get stuck up there, something goes wrong up there before 2 days later, right? So just something to potentially implement at your projects if you have a remote project or something that has a significant distance without out of cell range. Okay, empty job sites, being aware. So this is a unique situation for stormwater professionals that should be talked about. So you're going to be going, once you hit last winter, when from December to the end of January, when it rained every single day, it was unique. It was a unique situation to have that much rain. And it was also a unique situation that pretty much all of our jobs were ghost towns during that window. Unless they were vertical construction and working inside, any project that was in any kind of not in vertical construction space, there was no one there for a month and a half, and we're going there almost every day. And you're out there by yourself. You're doing inspections on your own. So you have to be acutely aware of safety situations in those situations because you are by yourself, Okay. There is no, if the contractor's there and everyone's running around doing things, you got all kinds of people to talk to and get help from. You turn an ankle, you do something wrong, you know, you've got ways to do it. You always have your cell phone, want to make sure you're in range if at all possible and have a way of getting a hold of someone. But you also don't put yourself in a situation. We don't want you putting yourself in an unsafe situation no matter what happens. But don't put yourself in an unsafe situation, and be more cognizant, aware of unsafe situations when you're by yourself. So you're looking at the job, slick, uneven ground, near a waterway, working near a waterway, working on steep slopes, those kind of things. Be acutely aware of those situations. Also be aware of just things that can happen on job sites or sketchy individuals on the job sites. You don't have to be a hero. You need to do your inspection. There's someone on the job site that's clearly not a member of the construction staff that you don't know who they are. You don't need to go approach them. You don't need to go run them off. You got a phone, use it. Call a contractor, find out if someone's supposed to be there or not. Be near your vehicle, go in a safe place to make that call, make sure it's okay. There are unfortunate circumstances that we have throughout everywhere, especially in California. We have homeless and homeless encampments that can happen. So it's something to be aware of, to think about. You show up at your job site that's empty, and then there's an encampment that's happening. It's not your job to go over there and deal with it, to flush anyone out, to deal with any of that kind of stuff. Oftentimes, you know, to deal with a pit bull that someone has brought on the job site. It's an unsafe situation. Get on the phone, talk to a supervisor, get in a place where you're safe when you're making that call. Okay. So the one thing that we do now have with a new permit is the ability to have inactive status, which is a nice thing. You get into a job site that looks like this one or either of these two job sites, and there's no work going on, you could potentially do a change of information with a new permit and go to inactive status. So it's something to think about, because then you could cut back to once per month inspections, no sampling, and only pre-QPE that can be done by a delegate or a QSP. So new things with a new permit that are coming out that could help these kind of projects like this, where they're truly not working, in order to reduce the amount of inspections. Again, but being aware, don't be a hero. Okay. Heat and cold, spring and early summer, this is a big deal if you're not acclimated to heat. Obviously, cold is a situation, depending on where you're working, being in the cold, making sure you have waterproof clothes, you're not getting super wet, right? And getting yourself in a position where you're putting yourself at risk for hypothermia, those kind of things. As much as anything else is, there's an acclimatization that is required, especially with heat. Okay. So this was last September, where it's showing 114-degree days. Obviously that's a concern, but in September, not that 114 degrees isn't a concern, but in September, it's less of a concern because your body has acclimated. Okay. Acclimatization means temporary adaptation to the body to work in heat that occurs gradually when a person is exposed to it. Acclimatization peaks in most people within 4 to 14 days of regular work of at least 2 hours per day in the heat. I know, I feel it. You go and, you know, it's been nice and cool all spring. The first day it hits 95 degrees. If you're out in that sun, you rapidly feel like you really take the effects of the heat much worse. Where in August, if it's 95 degrees, you're like, oh, it's a beautiful day today. It doesn't even bother you, because your body does acclimate to that heat. So be very aware in those spring and the early summer, when we get those first hot days, that you're hydrating, you're keeping track of the way you're feeling. If you're starting to feel woozy, starting to feel uncomfortable, get back to the car, get in the air conditioning, get some water, make sure that you're feeling well, call it in and explain it to yours, and make sure you're doing okay. It's a big deal in California. You get these 100-degree days, or the first 100-degree days in particular can be gnarly. Unsafe conditions. So the exemption for unsafe conditions that are in the permit, and I'm going to give you some that are outside of the permit but still are legitimate. So floods is a very standard unsafe condition associated with a permit. In this case, this is a job site. Clearly it's flooded. If the only access to the job site was coming from the horizon here, coming this direction, you can't get there. So you're going to take a picture of the flooded road, and you're going to turn around, but take a picture, document. Flooded, flood road closed, can't get there. Now, that doesn't mean you can't drive around and go another way. And you want to document the fact that you're having to go the long way around to get to a job. In this case, we were accessing from this side. I could get to here, but I obviously can't get out and sample water that's obviously can't get out, and my normal sample point for this staging area is over here in this corner, I can't get there. I'm not on a boat, I'm out there by myself. So I'm documenting the fact that I'm not sampling at the usual locations. If you can still sample, but not in the usual locations or not necessarily in an offsite location, then you could go ahead and still sample, but you're wanting to document why and what you're doing differently based on the exemption. Unsafe conditions, extreme weather. So we've got a snowy condition here on the left. I don't take a lot of videos of when it's raining really hard. This is when I was watching my son play football at the University of Oregon. There's a legitimate super extreme rainstorm that we were standing in and dealing with at that time. But unsafe conditions, so rain in and of itself is not an unsafe condition, but extreme weather where flooding, conditions where it is snowing and it's too slick for you to get there, or something that you can be, potentially document that I can't get down here because it's unsafe to walk down the slope because of the snow and ice, that kind of thing. If there's chain controls and you can't get to the job site, then you turn around after taking pictures. Critters as one of my examples of critters. So this was on the way to the Hellhole Dam job that I mentioned previously. I'm driving and this guy runs across the road. And so I took a picture of it because it's unusual to see a mountain lion during the daylight and everything else. But if you're going out there walking a job and you see one of these on the job site, go get in the car, right? And a more common would be wasps or bees or those kind of things. You can have a swarm of bees, you can have a wasp nest that falls and keeps you away from being able to sample in a location you're used to being able to sample that's on your sampling, your water pollution control drawings. Document it. Document. Okay, document why and utilize that and include that with your inspection report. Okay. Also, something that was brought up last year, as far as unsafe conditions or something that you can bring up to your client is like, you have to, in a 401 sampling environment, as an example, where you're supposed to go 300 feet downstream. So 300 feet downstream, but it is located in a berry patch, basically, where you can't get through, or it's on private property. So you're having to go through someone's private property to do it. That's something you're going to document. You're going to explain to both your client, and maybe the client can go in there and cut a access through the berries for you. Maybe the private property owner, the client can help you to talk to the private property owner and allow you to go do the 300 foot downstream. Or if it can't, then you're going to document why you can't, and you're going to talk to the water board about why I'm actually sampling at 500 feet downstream because that's my only good access. And you're documenting all of that. Just be transparent. These things happen. It says upstream and 300 feet downstream. 300 feet downstream or even upstream. Upstream of the job site is over a cliff and we can't get there. So you're going to document that. You're going to talk to the water board about it. And they may say, well, make it happen. You're going to have to build a bridge down to the water. Or they say, we get it, and you can sample, 200 feet upstream because it doesn't matter as long as it's upstream, that kind of thing. Unsafe conditions. This is my machine guns option. So we have a job at Beale Air Force Base. The project is out here off the horizon. This is our one access point. We get there and there's a yellow barricade across the road. The barricade says, danger, machine gun firing in progress, do not enter. We took a picture. This is our picture from our exemption that we attached to the inspection report that said we did not do sampling that day because we could not get there because there's a sign that says danger, machine gun firing in progress. Kind of makes sense. Now, the one exception to the rule, it's not really necessarily a full exception, but at Beale Air Force Base, same technician was going out there and there was some sort of terrorist threat that happened. So the entire base was closed. So I beat it in my head's not literally, but because that would be unsafe. But I talked to my technicians in detail about safety, right? And about if there's a safety extreme condition like this, or a condition that keeps you from being able to do it, you need to make sure you document, take pictures. We were going to the job. The main gate at Beale Air Force Base is closed. It says there's a terrorist threat. We're not allowing any visitors. The technician got out of the car and took a picture of the closed gate. During a terrorist threat, taking a picture of a guard shack at an Air Force base is not a great call. He got cuffed. I got a call and we had to go get him out of Beale Air Force Base jail and explain why he was taking the picture, that he wasn't actually trying to look through the safety precautions or the security of Beale Air Force Base. But he literally they pulled guns on him. for taking a picture of their guard check. So that's one case where it wasn't as good a thing. You could probably pull something off the internet to say that Beale Air Force Base was closed, and that would be enough. Okay, now we're going to talk about heavy equipment terminology, whip through this really quick, and then go on from there. So being around heavy equipment is one of the critical things that you're going to have to do as a stormwater field or a stormwater technician, stormwater professional. These pieces of equipment are huge. They have blind spots. It's something you need to be really focused on, being visible and being seen. Here I am, I'm 6'3", the tire is taller than me. I would not even feel like a speed bump if this guy ran me over. And then to talk terminology, these are called scrapers. They are what picks up the dirt, moves it from point A to point B so we can make fills. Here is a dozer, also used to push those scrapers or push material rather than pull it or pick it up. Also to rip material. A motor grader or blade, this is what they look like. They're used for finer grading, basically doing the finished grading on roadways, slopes, that kind of thing. An excavator. This is a good example. Excavator, we can kind of know what these are for, digging trenches, that kind of thing. This is a great example of a visibility issue that these heavy equipments have. So he is blinded on the side of the stick. This is called the stick of the excavator. He is blinded on the side of the stick for a lot of stuff that happens. This is why eye contact is one of the main focuses of working around heavy equipment. We're going to talk in more detail. This is called a compactor. This is called a sheep's foot compactor. It's an 825, and they also make them an 815 and smaller and bigger, I think, but 815, 825s are the standards. So a sheep's foot compactor, sheep's foot refers to these knobby wheels, okay? And then there are vibratory compactors. There are other types of compactors that their job is to consolidate the dirt underneath the piece of equipment and compact it properly. Off-highway trucks or ukes. This is an off-highway truck. Again, huge piece of equipment. My head only goes up to the rim on this piece of equipment or below the rim. So that's how big this piece of equipment is. They're used for off-highway and moving large amounts of material and heavy amounts of material. Again, huge visibility issues. This is the cab of the truck. There is a huge blind spot on this vehicle. This vehicle always has the right-of-way. Also, a very large excavator with a very large stick. Again, blind spot on the side of the excavator. And this is a smaller uke over here. They are off-highway trucks. They're called ukes because the original ones were made by a company called Euclid. A backhoe. A backhoe is one that has a front-end loader attachment and it has a back attachment, excavator attachment. That's why it's called a backhoe. A skip loader or skippy. Again, loader attachment on the front. Often a Gannon box or a box on the back to be able to do fine grading. That's a skip loader. Grade all. These are used on all kinds of vertical construction projects to move material up in high areas and around areas of the job site. Have articulating wheels to make it so they can get in very tight corners and spaces. They have the forklift feature that can reach all the way up to second and third floors. Again, a big issue with visibility in these vehicles because of the stick. The grade all. Okay, so heavy equipment. So just things, start the video here. So here is a uke going down the road, 25 miles an hour, filled with rock. This is the kind of thing, he's on a haul road. Haul roads are something you need to be really cognizant of when you're on a job site. So this uke with that rock, you don't want to be anywhere near that. One, because they're like a train. To stop them is not something they do on a dime, especially with the amount of momentum and physics behind all that weight going in the vehicle as it goes by. So you do not want to, in your personal vehicle or when you're walking, you do not want to get in this thing's way. You do not want to require this guy to slow down. It doesn't stop on a dime, and your little passenger vehicle would be a little bump to this thing. It literally would not hardly feel it as it ran you over. The other thing to think about, if you're not in your vehicle or you are in your vehicle, you don't want to be close to the haul road. As you can see, they can take heavy loads and full loads in the back of these dump trucks. And as he's taking a turn, there's nothing that says that one of those big rocks that's 2 feet in diameter that's in this thing on the back of this piece of equipment can't roll off that pile and out and onto the hood of your car. So you don't want to be close to this, or if you're walking on your foot. So you want to make sure you're very careful and cognizant of where they are. Understanding if there are haul roads and big heavy dirt moving operations like this, you need to be talking and communicating with your client. Can I go across the job site? Is it okay to cross the haul roads at 90 degrees? Do you have safety or protocols? Do you want to take me on a tour the first time to make sure I'm not driving along in my Accord going opposite this and this guy's having to slam on the brakes? Contractors get very upset about that. One, from a safety standpoint, obviously, because there's huge safety concerns, but also production and cost. That's an expensive piece of equipment. Production is very important, getting the dirt from point A to point B and getting back and getting another load and doing it. You stop that piece of equipment, slow that piece of equipment down, you're hurting their production, you're costing them money. So don't be that guy or gal. Heavy equipment haul roads. So here is an email from, so thank you for the report. Going forward, inspection reports need to have photos taken of the areas called out in the SWEP. The owner specifically mentioned the following: river to headwork structure, staging areas, the temporary cofferdam near DL2. I appreciate the help, thank you. We said, no problem. I do want to note that for the past week or two, I've been doing my inspections. I have been unable to photograph DL1 or L3 locations due to frequent crossing of heavy machinery. I was told I could not enter that far although one of our technicians was able to enter and photo those locations at the last inspection. So during inspections, when I'm unable to hit these locations, I will let you know and try to hit them the next time. Feel free to call me. And the response was, not a problem, Ronnie. Safety is more important than photos. So this is a good interaction, a conversation that happened between us and a client, where we were out there was a haul road. We had talked to them about accessing an area of the site, and it was the middle of summer. We couldn't get there safely. And so we had an exemption for not going in there. Now if it's, it can't be a consistent thing where you can't see your whole job site, you need to be able to see it. So they have to accommodate you, but it's something where this is a good interaction and an interaction with safety in mind, explaining why we were getting and not getting to all the areas of the job site. Okay. So here we are. Eye contact and hand signals. When you're around pieces of equipment, we talked about this. I talked about the sight lines and the blind spots of these things. When you're walking or driving or doing anything around a piece of equipment, you have to make eye contact. Number one rule: eye contact must be made. Okay, it must be made. So we pull up to this excavator. He's turning left over and over again. Has never turned where he's out actually in the roadway. You have to assume that the one time when you're driving by or walking by, he's going to spin 360 and you could get killed, okay? Or you could get crushed by this thing. So you stop, you wait patiently. These operators are used to people doing this and needing to make eye contact and being seen. You stop until you can get his attention. You point, you make hand signals to where you need to go. You see his hand signal waving you on, and then you go because you know you're safe. Here's an example of it in real time. We're waiting. Excavator is moving, he's doing his thing. He sees us, maybe a little hard for you to see. He focuses on us, he waves us on, and then we drive by. That is the proper technique for dealing with that, okay? Other site conditions: uneven ground. You're walking on job sites, you need to have eyes up and eyes down. Eyes up for equipment and everything else, but eyes down as well. You need to know you don't want to turn an ankle, hurt a knee, do that kind of thing. So you need to be eyes up and eyes down. Trenches and excavations, really, really important. Trenches and excavation, don't jump trenches. Don't try and be an athlete. You want to be a distance athlete, not a basketball player. The distance athlete part is that if you see this and you're here, and boy, it's a lot faster to just walk across this, to get down in this trench and get back out. The better thing is to walk over here where there's a crossing point and walk back around. Be a distance athlete, not a basketball player. Don't try and jump it. Do not do it. Don't jump trenches, okay? Other safety hazards: rebar and stuff like that's exposed and sticking up in the air. There are tons of terrible stories about people being impaled on rebar. That is the reason why they have these orange things. They're called rebar caps, which would make it, if you fell on them, that it's not going to penetrate your body. Being around rebar and formwork and stuff like that, there's nails. You need to be eyes up and eyes down and looking where you're going. You don't want to step on nails. That's the reason why we wear sturdy work boots, but looking at that kind of thing. Other issues that you could come up: this is a very steep slope on a project we're working on. You can see the people way down at the bottom there. Sometimes you're working on steep slopes. You may have to have walking sticks. You may have to have other ways of getting down a slope, or find a different way to get in a safe way from one end if you have to get down to the bottom of the slope, not just diving off the edge. Obviously, eyes up and eyes down. Unfortunate part of what we're going through is that there can be hypodermic needles. There can be other things that are sharps or other issues you're concerned about. You don't need to handle these. You need to just not make sure that you're not affected by them. This is something, and John brought this up last year. When you're walking and you're walking on jute netting, you need to be careful. It may look like it's stable. A lot of times jute netting like this can have some erosion underneath it. You may be thinking you're stepping on even ground and there's a 6-inch erosion underneath that you're falling into. So be very careful about saturated conditions, slippery conditions, those kind of things. Lastly, additional site conditions that you might not need to be concerned about. Again, this is our job where we're doing the sampling next to the water. Some projects, they may have to require you to be tied off. They may have to have a buddy or a spotter near the water's edge. All things to think about when you're in site conditions and flowing water. That's it. Almost out of time, but my email address, my phone number is on here. Please, if you're interested in water pollution control manager training, sign up for my class next week. And I am ready for questions if anybody has them about this. And if you have other questions that come up after this training, feel free to give me a call. I'm happy to talk about safety. I'm passionate about it. I care about people getting home safe.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Bob. If you have any questions, go ahead and either unmute yourself and ask, or you could put them in the chat. But great information, Bob, about safety and everything that we need to be thinking about on a job site that is so vital. If you missed any part of this workshop, I noticed there were some that were joining a little bit late. It is recorded and you can watch everything that you missed up on our website, which is stormwaterawareness.org. And this will be available in the next 24 to 48 hours for you to watch at your convenience. It doesn't look like there are any questions, and we are almost out of time. So thank you, Bob, so much for presenting. We always appreciate you joining us for Stormwater Awareness Week, and thank you everyone for attending.
Thank you, guys.